is ours. Just your hand in mine makes me feel like a king. Just your warmth near mine makes my whole body ring. 'Cause I love you, I do. I truly do. Hell, sugar babe, what's the matter with you? Why don't you love me like you used to do? I guess it's all that matters. 'Cause all I wanted my sugar to do was make $5 and give me $2. It's all over now.
Hi, I'm emmytrje4 from Norway, and I'm a huge Emmylou Harris fan, and I also run Emmylou's Facebook group here in Norway, and we have more than 10,000 members there now. It's getting pretty big, and well, on this page we have fans, we have band members, and we have people that has played with Emmy and so on, and people who has met Emmylou and all that stuff. And well, this guy called Michael Goldberg posted a video or a short video of a song that was quite rare, and I knew immediately from the beginning that this was really rare stuff, and I couldn't believe where he had found those songs, and that song was actually one of the songs that wasn't released. So I texted him, and goes to show that Michael had worked with Emmy in the early 70s, the time before she started to work with the great Graham Parsons and so on. He sent me more stuff, and this was amazing. I mean, like, this is material that I have never heard of before, and we never knew that Emmy played that kind of music and was so active in the early 70s, years before she met Graham Parsons. And I was so surprised when I heard Michael sending these songs, and I knew that is a treasure, because it's material that is recorded in a really good way. I hadn't heard anything of it before, and so I said, "Where have you been?" I couldn't believe what I've heard, and so I sent him 2 rare songs that was also from the 70s. What we didn't know, that Michael actually played on them, and he didn't know that they existed out there, and and so Michael shared some more music with me, and I think this is an amazing material. The sound is good. George Massenberg produced it. Emmy sang on them. The songs are great. I mean, like, this is music that should have been released years ago that we never knew existed. And even more interesting, Emmy seems to never knew that they existed. So, well, I think this is an amazing treasure that has just been discovered, and really hope that it could be released someday. And I really give thumbs up to Michael, and I hope, Michael, that you will be able to do something with it, because you were there from the beginning, and this is a part of the story of Emmylou Harris that we haven't heard yet, and also the production of the whole thing is great. So I think it's time to get it released. So
hi,
good luck,
my name's Michael
and
Goldberg.
bring it out.
This is Bowie, that's Millie, and I want to tell you some history that I had for 3 years in Baltimore with Emmylou Harris and some other people. When I first got to Baltimore, the word I got was you have to meet Orrin Smith, who was a great guitar player. And I went to Peabody Conservatory of Music, where Orrin was playing in an improvisational theater, and I talked him into listening to my original tunes, and he fell in love with it from the minute I met him. And he helped me put a band together. Unfortunately, he couldn't be in the first Michael Goldberg band because he was playing with Bob Brown, who was going on tour with Richie Havens. But he got me the best musicians. And I became the house band, at a club called The Classroom at 9th and Charles Street, at the corner of Reed and Charles Street. And this was the beginning of the action in downtown Baltimore, at the Inner Harbor, of people coming into the city. But what was unique about Baltimore is that you had people from Fells Point, you had owners of companies, you had the factory workers, you had attorneys, you had newspaper people, you had the artists from Maryland Institute of Art, Peabody Conservatory of Music, and of course the colleges, Johns Hopkins and Towson, and also all the black jazz players from North Avenue. So I got to write all this different genre of music with the best musicians, and because Orrin was associated with the band, I had instant viability. And we played 5 nights a week at the Classroom. But one of the reasons that we were popular is that this is a book called The Diner Guys. And the Diner Guys were the characters in Barry Levinson's movie. And the 2 primary people that came to see me all the time were Boogie Wineglass and Buzzy Kuhn, who owned the hair garage at Reed Street. And they brought all the women and all the action, but Boogie loved the music. Also on Reed Street at the same time was John Waters. So I was walking upstairs where we played in the Classroom, and I saw a girl carrying a guitar case, a beat up guitar case, and had jeans stuffed into boots, came up to about here, got to the top of the stairs, and she introduced herself. I'm Emmylou Harris. Can I play a couple songs? And I said, great. Well, the minute I heard Emmy, I went crazy. Emmy was so good. And she said she was a folk singer and not a lot of places to play. And she started sitting in, playing with the band, singing my originals. In a short period of time, we recorded 3 of my originals with Emmy on duet at George Massenburg's studio. This was before George had invented the parametric equalizer and had recorded all these hundreds of great artists. And he was just beginning at ICI, and we recorded There's Time, which was a kind of folk song with a mandolin, Come On Home, which was about 4.5 minutes of jazz and folk and hard rock, and Meet Right Here, which was an Elton John rock song. So what is kind of interesting is that Emmy is known for country and folk, or for that matter, sing anything, of course, but nobody has really heard these kind of originals. And I will play you a few bits of each one of these songs and show you where we started. So I started getting well known, primarily is that the newspaper writers wrote about me all the time as kind of the happening act. And I was fortunate in 1971 and 72 to open for some great people, as you can see here, Al Cooper, Derek and the Dominoes, Mother Earth, Spencer Davis. And during this period, Emmy introduced me to a song by Mance Lipscomb called Sugar Babe. And the minute I heard it, I said, we've got to go and record it. So we went back into George's, and joining us on that session, Orrin played pedal steel. He had just bought this pedal steel and maybe a week before. And Keith Grimes, who was the guitar player for Eva Cassidy, and we recorded a country song with Emmy and me. So at a juncture during this time frame, Emmy and I started playing every other Tuesday night at Clyde's, just the 2 of us. And one of the first gigs that we got was at the headlining at Gwen Oaks Amusement Park. And we got this gig through Ty Ford, who was the top DJ at WHFS, one of the leading radio stations in the country at that time. And that was the first beginning of us playing outside my band. And what was interesting is that we varied every other week with Bill and Taffy Nivert, who were just great songwriters, and of course who Emmy became very, very close with. I was also starting to get a lot of press And as you can see in this newspaper article, Michael at the national scene, people knew me by Michael. And it was very reassuring to get that kind of recognition. So I opened up, and Emmy also played with us when Tracy Nelson and Mother Earth came, and we opened for them. And here was a person in front of me, this imposing person, Travis Rivers. Now, I didn't know whether Emmy knew Travis or not. I think Travis was aware of Emmy, but he immediately was attracted to us and took Emmy and myself up to the band's recording studio in Woodstock, where we recorded 10 or 12 songs. I think the problem that Emmy was having at that time is every record company had a folk singer. So if they had Joni Mitchell or Judy Collins, they weren't going to sign Emmy. And Emmy was doing a lot of things during that time. But it was, again, playing with Michael Goldberg Band and then playing as a duo. 72 and 73, I had the great opportunity to open and play with Springsteen and Aerosmith. And this is a review of the show, which says Michael Goldberg Band was the best band, which was still kind of amazing to me. But I was very fortunate to be able to have that exposure. So this brings me to the story of when Michael Clarke and Chris Hillman from the Burrito Brothers walked and met us in Clyde. So at the end of a set, they said, "Would you come over and can we buy you a drink?" I said, "Sure." So Emmy and I sat down, and one of the guys was going, "Well, last week we were with John Lennon and we were with Stephen Stills." And I turned to Emmy and go, "Who the heck are these guys?" And then I found out it was Michael Clarke and Chris Hillman from the Byrds. I was a little aware, of course, of the Burrito Brothers, but they explained they were playing at the Cellar Door, and they asked us to come down and play with them, which we did for the rest of the week. It was kind of interesting because the Cellar Door is a very small stage, and I stood on a chair playing the baby grand piano, which was on the stage, and I was standing off the stage playing. But we played the entire week. I'm not sure how Emmy and Graham communicated, but we were asked to play the next time they came, and we played the entire week. But I remember the audition, that in the upstairs of the Cellar Door, which was the Stars dressing room, you walk down a spiral staircase into a garden. And there were 2 chairs set up, and we both sang at that audition. Now, I don't know why I sang, but I got a message from Rick Roberts from Firefall about 2.5 years ago, and he said, "Michael, you don't know this, but Emmy was not going to do the audition for Graham unless you sang." I'm going, "Well, Rick, I can't sing. What do you mean?" You know, and I was so shocked, and such a warm feeling came over me that Emmy would do this. But I mean, the audition was for her. But we got to play the week, and we also played one of the last concerts with the Burritos and Graham at University of Maryland, Baltimore campus. So some people, I think, will find that interesting because I'm not sure that was made aware that we did play together 3 times with the Burrito Brothers. So one of the people that wrote a lot of articles about me, and as you can see here, a story about Emmylou, was John Schulian. And John Schulian had become, after he left the Baltimore Sun, a famous sports writer, Sports Illustrated, and then wrote a lot of books, as well as a TV producer of a lot of famous TV shows. But this is the only instance that I know where it, in print, talks about playing with me and, of course, the Graham situation. But it was great to have John, who has maintained a friendship and actually worked at the Chicago Tribune with my sister, who was an editor at the Chicago Tribune. So Emmy and I kind of parted ways. Emmy went with Graham, And I was trying to get a record contract. I was signed by CMA at that time, and they put us on a national tour, which ended up where I played 2 nights at the Whiskey A Go Go. And I just decided that I was tired and I was going to come home. And I wrote music during this time, but I was really, really honored by playing in Baltimore. I'm in music history of Baltimore, which really makes me feel good that I was recognized of my work in Baltimore. And what's really interesting in this image is we played a club in Chicago, and as you can see, there's Emmylou, the Mahavishnu Orchestra, and all these great people, and there's the Michael Goldberg Band. So it really was honored to we made an impact during this time period. So what's interesting about this story is how re-engaged with Emmy. And this is how it happened. My sister Maggie was on a plane going to Italy. And she was in first class, sat down, turned to her right, and she said, "Are you Emmylou Harris?" And she said, "Yes, I am." And she said, "Well, I'm Michael Goldberg's sister." And Emmy let out a, "Oh, I've been looking all over for him. I'm writing my biography, and I can't remember all these stories." So they engaged, and I was invited and got together with Emmy twice. When I turned 70, I decided that I wanted some people to know. I was aware that my family and friends didn't know all these music stories. And I started writing stories and playing with Blaze Starr on the block in Baltimore, things like that. And I made a post on Emmylou's Facebook page that a gentleman, Torge, manages, and I posted, and I had some old songs of Emmy playing in Norfolk, and it went viral. And he goes, "Well, who are you? And what do you mean you played with Emmy?" So it was starting to pick up activity on Facebook, and I didn't want it to go viral. And I went offline with him. And I said, "Well, yeah, I played him my originals with Emmy. I played him the new material I was writing." And he says, "Well, what happened to you? What happened?" And then he sent me a song called Clocks. And in 10 seconds of hearing Clocks, I said, "That's me playing." We recorded that at the band's recording studio. Now, what is kind of fascinating about this kind of Zen story is 10 days before Torge played me Clocks, is I found this tape. And this is the tape of the 10 or 12 songs that we recorded at the band studio in Woodstock. And I happened to find it about a week before this was going on in a bag, in a bag, in a bag, in a bag. And here's the tape. So what's the odds that Torge sends me Clocks, and then he sends me one other song? I said, "Well, where did you get those songs?" I said, I just found the songs on this tape." He says, "Well, it's on a 5-record set of Emmy." I said, "Really?" I was really, really fascinated. And so Torge started going, do you know this is kind of music history? And nobody knows these stories. And maybe Emmy doesn't remember some of these stories. So when he said, "Well, what happened to you?" I thought about it, and I was writing for Christian Broadcast Network and commercials and small documentaries. I was writing and all kinds of different material. But 25 years later, I decided to play live again. And my band got signed by Cellar Door, and they put us all throughout the East Coast in clubs and major festivals, opening for the Beach Boys, Huey Lewis, the Spinners, and we became just incredibly popular, just like I was popular in Baltimore. We were just the #1 band, and we were playing 317 nights a week. And then 2 years later, I decided I wasn't going to play live again. And so it was interesting when I was telling Torge the story. He goes, "What happened to you?" And I started playing him the new music I was writing, and he encouraged me, because I'm an insecure songwriter, to release it. And I said, "Well, I want to release these Emmylou songs." And I said, "But oh, by the way, there's something I haven't told you." So when I stopped playing again after the 2 years, I formed a nonprofit to kind of schoolhouse rock, correlated to the standards of learning, which became a PBS award-winning program. And we had a lot of children, students, and professionals singing with us. And two of the singers that have sung my originals, which I have, are Adrienne Warren, who is coming to Broadway as Tina Turner, who has been as a Tina Turner show on Broadway in London, and I'm going to show you a clip of her, and Natalie Press, who was recognized as a new and upcoming artist by Rolling Stone and is internationally known. So what is kind of interesting in this story is I have these Emmylou originals singing with me, and then I have Natalie Press, and I have Adrienne Warren. So the uniqueness here is I want to release these songs, and the reason I never released the Emmy songs is I just felt uncomfortable that I didn't want it to seem that I was taking advantage of Emmylou Harris. But I sent the songs out to people in the music business that I've known and respect, and they would keep it confidential. And they said, you know, the songs are well recorded. Of course, it was George Massenburg, and the songs are good and they're viable. You know, I'm Insecure, they're done 50 years ago, but everybody who's heard the song said you need to release them. And Torge encouraged me because he says this is music history and people would enjoy seeing and hearing the history of Emmylou. So I'm going to show you some of the video of Adrienne and Natalie for a few seconds. But I guess in conclusion that I have original songs that have never been released with Emmy, Natalie Press, Adrienne Warren, Deborah Coleman, blues legend, and Joe Stonestreet, the original lead singer of Blackstreet. So I guess the answer to Torge's question of what happened to you is I was writing and recording and started writing again. And I want to release these songs and wanted to let Emmy and whoever's watching this kind of know the history of what happened to you and what were you doing. And I'm really proud of the songs, and I think they hold up. And I'll play a few segments of Adrienne and Natalie, and thank you.
It hurts so much